So basically, I went to the bank and then, it was COVID. So shit was fucked, bro. And I don't know if you guys seen the movie, but if you know anything about Panama, COVID here was crazy. You couldn't leave the house, only like 1 hour a day. Like, not even a day. It's 1 hour women, 1 hour men. 1 day women, 1 day men. 1 day women, 1 day men. And then you have to coordinate that your hour matches with the bank, because if the bank doesn't match with the hour and the day that you match, you're fucked.
Venga. Permítame su cédula.
Sí, cómo no.
Venga, camine conmigo.
Sí.
Vamos hacia allá. Sí, señora, según su número de cédula, ya a usted se le está acabando el tiempo. Bueno, y obviamente por la temperatura que tiene no se le puede permitir la entrada al banco.
Ay, pero, señor oficial, todavía me quedan 20 minutos.
So I go there, and there's this thing in Panama where, like, if you have to withdraw an X amount of money, they ask you, like, sir, are you being kidnapped? Sir, where's this money from? Sir, you have to sign this for it's like the Contraloria is like a department that has to do with accounting and whatever and finances, So I do that. I take it all out. Now, the thing about Panama is that we have to go in wearing a mask. You get a mask, they spray your hands, and you go in the bank wearing a fucking mask. I mean, like, then I leave with the money, and I'm out of the bank, and I look outside, it's like there's no cars. There's just a guard. And I'm like, fuck, they didn't ask me to put down my mask. There's a perfect time to rob a bank. Fucking sure hell would be right now.
¿Cuánto tiempo tú tenías que trabajar para hacer 40,000 palos? ¿Ah? ¿Y cuánto tiempo te van a meter por robar un banco? 0. ¿0? Sí, cuando vas saliendo no te meten un pepazo. ¿Quién te dijo eso? Si aquí nada más estamos tú y yo para detenerlo.
Then I'm walking home, and then I start problem solving. I'm like, okay, so pros of robbing the bank now is that you have the mask, and then, like, let's say if I wear a wig and act like a woman and steal a woman's ID, I would be able to get in, and it's a woman's day, so it's gonna be really hard for them to know. But the thing is, like, if I get away and they do catch me after, it's gonna be really easy. How do I get rid of the money? And I start seeing, like, buildings, skyline is clear. I would put the money in a drone, have the drone fly off, then go and switch to a guy, because you can get special permits, like if you were, like, an Uber driver or whatever, then switch to a motorcycle and be a dude. Like, I was like, this is how I would do it. Someone calls me and they're like, hey, they're making a film competition and the prize gets $400,000 to make their movie. Do you have a script? I'm like, no, but I got an idea. I'm like, and I asked them, like, when is the due date? They're like, oh, less than 2 weeks. And I'm like, what? So then I go down and I just wrote the thing in 2 weeks. I did I did math, right? Like, I need to write a minimum of this amount of pages a day. And I always try to exceed it. And it had to be less than 2 weeks, because I had to also do the finance plan, like what's the scene's gonna cost. And I'm like writing, I don't remember, I was writing like 10 pages a day or 7 pages a day. I remember it was maybe 3 weeks, because I had calculated it's 2 weeks to write the script and 1 week to be able to finish off, because it needs to be like foolproof. I need to call people, hey, how much does a quote for do this? How much is this? How much does the permit cost for this? And you do the permits and the code is because they had to receive a paper saying, like, oh, we just need to give them the money, and then he just pays off everybody and we go, right? I called, like, what actors are available in Panama? I had the casting kind of, not the full casting. The casting changed, actually, because, like, one of the actors went to jail. But, like, if they would have given me the money that same day, I would have been able to, like, make the film that I pitched in the script.
Hoy en día hay más de 1.3 cuatrillones de dólares en dinero en el mundo. Estoy hablando de dinero en forma de inversiones, derivados, criptomonedas. Hay aproximadamente 7.753 millones de personas en el mundo. El 0,7% de las personas tiene más de $1 millón en dinero. El 7,9% tiene entre 100.000 y 1 millón. El 21.3 tiene entre 10.000 y 100.000. Y la gran mayoría, el 70.1%, tenemos menos de 10.000. Focona. Este es un gran problema. Digo, ¿cómo chucha va a ser para entrar ese 0.7%?
I wrote it. I just went with the flow, and then if a character came up, I didn't really try to think about it too much. I just wrote, get it in paper. And then once I finished it, I was able to, obviously before I pitched it into the film fund, I went back and I deleted a scene or two or added some like couple of things to make it like really like feel like a complete movie. I wasn't 100% happy with it. But bro, if you don't got a deadline, you're never gonna finish. This is the most important thing. So then I finished writing it. I did the paperwork, which is like, the script was like, I don't know, 80% of the scoring, and the other is the other 20-30%, which is really important too, because they're gonna give you that amount of money. They need to trust that you know what the fuck you're doing. So it was like a fucking foolproof business plan, how the marketing's gonna be done. And it's really funny. I knew where my story was gonna end, and I kind of knew where it was gonna begin. And then I kind of made up a midpoint, and I made up the Act 1 break, and I made up the Act 2 break. But that wasn't set in stone, but it told me I knew where I had to get, and then I started writing. And then okay, this Act 1 break is no longer this, it's something else. And I didn't care. And I'm talking about the first draft, I didn't care. So now this Act 1 break doesn't work, but I made this, so then the Act 2 break is gonna be this now. Cause like, you know, the juices come. I wasn't structured in a way where like I had to make it like this, but I needed to have that carrot, right? Because if you're just writing and you don't know where you're going, you're gonna end up writing scenes, and I didn't have time to like, so then I started going, and then I finished it. And my first version is shit.
Comando, acá no está abierta.
¿Qué estamos esperando?
¿Alguien sabe usar esta vaina?
Uno de ellos deben saber.
¿Quién de ustedes resuelve?
Yo mismo.
But like the whole thing about writing is just sit down, write it, and then admit that it's shit, and then rewrite it. Because after I won the contest, the hardest part was to rewrite it. It wasn't even hard, it just takes more time. It was just a different type of like, okay, this has to match with this and this and this. And there's like stuff like, and like know when to take advice and when to say like, no. Like, we had that stuff where you would tell me, I think this, I think, yeah, but I don't think that. Like that whole scene of De La Rosa talking to the cop. When I saw it and I did it and I finished it and I took it to LA and I showed it to some critics in LA, for everybody that's from LA or that was from Europe or whatever, they're like, yeah, that seems a little bit too stretched. But I remember I told you like, this is for my audience. But when I fucking put that shit in the movie theaters in Panama, that shit went wild. It's like the clips that gets more clipped on TikTok and shared. Like it's that scene because that's the audience I was going for that scene, which were us, the Panamanians.
¿Sabes por qué solo tomamos 20,000 cada uno? Porque es lo justo. ¿Qué esperabas? ¿Que los esposáramos y los procesáramos en el cuartel? ¿Piensas que eso es lo correcto?
Eso es lo que dice la ley.
¿La ley? ¡A la pinga la ley! ¿Quieres que te diga por qué los dejé ir? Porque el sistema no sirve. El sistema los creó.
¡Mentira!
I think this is another thing that's very important, because when people think we're gonna write, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna start writing. Sometimes writing is 90% thinking, 90 minutes of thinking and 5 minutes of writing. Like it's just like you really have to think things through and start like I talk when I write dialogue, I don't write it right away. I do it in my head and then I grab a note. This is something about my process, but it's more like physical, I guess. I don't write the script. I open a notepad or text edit or pages or whatever it is, like a word processor, and I just write dialogue and then an action line and dialogue and an action line. I don't even start telling who what characters are. I start building it just so I don't have to be, like interior, whatever. No, fuck that shit. Then I put it because I feel like you're going into technical side and then you're going into like the flow. Going to technical side and you're going to the flow. I just write everything. I talked to the police and they fucking trained us for a week or so. They trained every actor that was the police. We did like gun training. You see how the police like jump off, like the actors, how they jump off the bike, how they hold the guns. They're all like realistic replicas. I mean, they're BB guns, right? But they're like, when they hold the guns and they do the allanamientos is what's called in Spanish. What's it called in English? It's raids and stuff. Everything is like the proper procedure. Obviously, U.S. procedure is probably different than Latin American procedure, especially with the personnel. But they were there. The cops were there, setting the actors how you would go in. And obviously, there's like that raid scene where the boss is talking to us while he's going down. In real life, that wouldn't really happen 100% like that. But those are the small details where you have to make it into a movie. Or like, if the motorcycle cops get off their bike, they ain't taking off their helmet. Because technically, I think their helmets are special with Kevlar in them, so they use it as helmet. But like, it's a movie. I'm not gonna have them talking in helmets for like 4 minutes. You're gonna be like, what the fuck, man?
¿Tú estás fucking loca? ¿Qué? ¿O eres estúpida? ¿Qué pasó? ¿De dónde salieron todos estos clientes nuevos? Amigos de amigos. No me digas.
And it's really funny because like, this is something like I think writers need to just shut the fuck up. Don't listen to people that go like, there's people that have been doing this for 50 years and this never wins, so you need to like be realistic, or like you need to do it like the system. Fuck the system, bro. Like everyday shit is changing. And I made the movie, and this is very important. The movie's for me. Bro, if you're a director and writer, you need to fucking be a great producer. This no longer, you're not in the Hollywood system where they pay you a monthly fee and you make 3 movies a year or whatever. Like, that was like the golden age, right? Like, that's when Instagram didn't exist, TV didn't exist. Hollywood had to be spitting out movies. If you got into the system, that's it, you're done, right? But it ain't like this. You're an entrepreneur now. But if you want to be a writer and director, you gotta get shit done. You gotta get it done. You gotta put yourself deadlines. And if you don't meet the deadlines, you give yourself another one. And don't cry about like, oh, I didn't meet the deadline, I'm gonna be a little wimp. No, you just keep going. You just keep going and you do as much as you can every day. And then like, I still feel like this. Like every day I feel I didn't do shit. But then as the week starts going and the whatever, I'm like, shit, I've done a lot of shit. You get like, and it starts like, and if you're a first-time director, bro, my art department, they worked in, I don't know, an award-winning film, and she worked in whatever, and she's a great person, but she's gonna try to step on your toes because they're used to working with directors, first features, who don't know what they're doing, and they're all gonna try. And I'm gonna tell you, they all gave me good ideas. You know what I mean? But they gave me a lot of ideas that would have been bad. And you have to know when to push back, and you have to be very, very strict. Like the thing I did is like, hey, we got a week of pre-prod. Read the script. We looked at locations. Any ideas you have, tell me now, because on Friday, it's whatever we go for, and I don't want any changes. Right? Like same thing with the script. The actors, like, don't change my dialogue. Don't change my dialogue. You ain't change. It's written like that. It's gonna be like this, right?
Y lo poco que falta. Bueno, para eso están asegurados.
Con todo respeto, señor, yo lo apoyo en todo lo que haga. Es más, usted me dice qué tengo que decir, yo lo voy a decir. Pero yo no me convertí en oficial de la ley para romperla.
Un policía por la patria. Me gusta.
And so it's really about the theme of money, right? First the system is broken, which was one of the things we figured out, right? And also it's like, what are you willing to sacrifice to achieve your dreams? For example, the American version of the American dream now is just like, what are you willing to do to get rich, right? And then the Panamanian version right now, it's, what are you willing to do to just survive, right? And like, that's the whole thing. And I think it really resonated with the people down here a lot. this is art. I'm not going to tell you like, oh, this is business, whatever, because this is when we get shit movies. Yes, it is art. But to be a great artist, you need to be an even better businessman.
Bienvenido al sueño panameño. Si no lo conoces te lo enseño. De la mano de Dios yo me la rifo, le meto empeño. Pa' vivir como diría mi abuela, la vida que me merezco. Todos quieren estar en la cima. A poco les importa quién le pasan por encima. Muchos se caen en el camino, cuesta arriba de resistencia, pero yo voy tranquila. Monkey business going down. If you think you got it, come around y damos vuelta downtown. Pura movida inteligente, ando con lo mismo gato de siempre y sigo aquí, low key, enfocada en lo mío. You can find me a bag of fish con lo mío. Money and the goodies pa' pasar un rato fino. No vaya a meterte en un lío.
Préstame atención por un momento. La historia que te cuentan tiene dos caras y decirte lo lamento. Siempre le meten fantasía con las hadas para después decirte que no están hechos de leche condensada. Porque 7 de cada 10 historias comienzan así.